I almost felt like I got more out of sharing his fifth step than I got when I did my own. I mean, it was just a
Hmm.
really, really cool experience. And, Stefan and I became, I always talk about this when you work the steps with somebody and you walk through, the fifth step with them, you go from being a sponsor to being a friend. And
Hmm.
Stefan was a friend.
Hmm.
Stefan golfed, so we'd start golfing together. Stefan worked at the restaurant, and I hung out at the restaurant all the time. I got to know his whole family, his mom and dad, his brother, I mean, his sisters. I ended up just being like a part of their family. And Stefan, to this day, is still sober. And, uh, and we've gone through so much together, him and I. It's been an incredible journey.
Welcome everyone to the next episode. We heard a lot of good stories last time about steps 10 through 12. And yeah, now we're ready. I can't believe we got all the way through 12 steps. Like that seems like quite an accomplishment right there. Just talking about it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's another story.
yeah.
Another
Definitely
story
went a lot
tonight to do.
faster.
Yeah. Yeah, we cruised right through those. And now I think we left off talking about getting you being a sponsor for someone else. Is that where you want to start?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Cool.
I yeah, of course, the Horace thing goes on and on and on. He's was always a big part of my life. And when I uh, when I got sober, and he sent me back to school, and he told me to get a job, and so I'm starting to get back into the swing of things, and things are feeling pretty good. I got back with Elaine and moved back in the house, and I'm acting like a real dad and a husband, and I'm facing life on life's terms. So things are starting to really click right along. Uh, it's still I think back on those days, and it was still uh, something that was on my mind continuously. I like every day. It was an effort to keep on the right track, doing the right things, going to meetings. Um, when I got sober, there was only like 3 meetings in Bountiful, and I remember telling Horace, I was like, "Dude, you know, I don't know that I can go several days without a meeting. In between, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got too much time on my hands. I think too much. Whatever. Well, just go start meetings." I said,
Oh,
"What?" And he goes, "Yeah, just go start some. You need a meeting, start one. It's your responsibility. You want to stay sober, go take charge and start meetings." So I did. I went and I went and started a noon meeting um, right when I got out of treatment. It was before I was working. I went and
hmm.
got this meeting started at noon, and I did it Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And little community church down the road from us where we had night meetings, and I went talked to them, and they said, "Oh yeah, it's wide open. You can do whatever you guys want to do in your room, and go ahead and start meeting." So I started the meeting, and there was a handful of people that were going, and it turned out to be a really good meeting. And it turned from Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Pretty soon it was Monday through Friday, every day of the week.
Oh wow.
And just that meeting's still going on today. So that
Oh
meeting
cool.
started 35 years ago, 36 years ago, and it's still going today.
Mhm.
So that was a success. But along the way, you meet a lot of people, and I remember when I finally did go back to work and got a job, I thought for sure that meeting would just disappear. I thought without me there, every day, they can't keep it going. But It's still going today. One
Nice.
of those things where I was absolutely wrong. And then there was a lot of openings during the week, and I started several meetings. I remember one meeting I started was on a Saturday morning. Elaine and I had gone up to Island Park on a trip, and we found a meeting up there. It's called the Little Church in the Pines, and I've been back many. I go every year. It's on Saturday night. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's around a fire pit outside. And when we were going, when I was first sober, it was a Al-Anon meeting. So it was a combined meeting, which I'd never ever heard of before. I mean, that was just way unusual. But so that inspired me to come back and start this meeting. Elaine and I started it Saturday morning in Bountiful, and we we kind of followed their format and did AA and Al-Anon. Oh man, we stirred up a lot of hornets, man. There was a lot of people just like, what are you doing? You can't do that, and well, you can't be on the schedule and you can't be a real meeting and all that. And it's like, that's fine. We just want to get together and everybody share it. It ended up being like the biggest meeting of the week in Bountiful. It actually turned out really, really good. And it's still going to this day. So uh, that was a good one. I started a men's meeting in on Wednesday night. That's still going today. Uh, I just took the bull by the horns, and just did what Horace told me to do, and I just started all these meetings. And of course, when you get involved, you're meeting a lot of people on the way. And I had this guy come up to me one day. His name's Stefan. And his family owned a restaurant in Bountiful. It was called Cafe Alicia's, a Mexican restaurant. And I'd been going there for years and years. And what I liked about it is when I'd go into the restaurant, there was a chalkboard up on the wall, and it had all these beers I'd never heard of before, all these imported beers, a whole list of all the beers that they had. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to drink that whole chart. One of these days, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to order one of each one of those. And that was kind of my goal, not
Wow.
knowing that I'd end up being alcoholic. But anyway, Stefan came up to me one day and he goes, "Hey, will you sponsor me?"
Hmm.
And I was like, this first time I'd been asked, and I was just like, whoa, man. Yeah, I didn't want to say no to him, but I didn't know what that meant. It was like I was pretty overwhelmed, and it was like, what do I do? I don't even know how to do this. So, of course, I told him to call me, and I made sure that he was ready and he was willing to do the deal and all that. I asked him a few questions after a meeting, and then I went and talked to Horace, and Horace just said, "Well, all you know is what we did. That's all you have to offer him. You don't
Hmm.
know anything more. Don't try to make stuff up. Don't try to go out on your own. Stick with the book, read the book, go through the steps and work the steps with him just like you and I did." So that's
Hmm.
what I did. We started going through the steps, and Stefan and we really hit it off. He was almost exactly 10 years younger than me. His story and my story were so similar. I mean, it was just like everything I did. He dropped out of school when he was in the ninth grade. He got married when he was 16 years old. He had kids, been divorced. I mean, he'd gone through all these things that I'd gone through, and his life and my life were just almost the same. He dabbled in, cocaine, and he drank a lot, and he really, really wanted to stay sober. So it was really interesting working with him and going down this path with him. I remember when we worked the first three steps, we got on to step four, and on the fifth step, I I picked him up in my car and I said, "Okay, we're just going to go for a drive." I didn't know where to go or anything. I said, "We're just going to drive, and you start reading it, and we'll just keep driving, and maybe we'll pull over and talk. I don't know. We'll just keep driving." it was so funny because I think we ended up in Pocatello, Idaho, or just
It was like drive.
in this drive. We just kept going north, and we just kept talking. But the
Mm.
more he talked, the more, yeah, we just had all these similarities. It was just like really, really weird how many
Mm.
things that fell into place, and was able to share some of my story with him, and we just, it was just a kind of a, I don't know, I almost felt like I got more out of sharing his fifth step than I got when I did my own. I mean, it was just a
Mm.
really, really cool experience. And Stefan and I became, yeah, I always talk about this when you work the steps with somebody and you walk through, the fifth step with them, you go from being a sponsor to being a friend. And
Mm.
Stefan was a friend.
Mm.
Stefan golfed, so we'd start golfing together. Stefan worked at the restaurant, and I hung out at the restaurant all the time. I got to know his whole family, his mom and dad, his brother, I mean, his sisters. I ended up just being like a part of their family. And Stefan, to this day, is still sober. And, uh, and we've gone through so much together, him and I. It's been an incredible journey. In fact, I ended up working with his dad. His dad had more time than me, but he'd really never worked the steps before. So him and I worked the steps together. I ended up working some of the steps and doing some stuff with his brother, Aaron. And so when I tell you I get to know the family, I really got to know the family. Uh, of course, the restaurant was having some issues and stuff, and Louie and Alicia, they wanted to retire, and so they confided in me and talked to me about, how they should go about that and what kid, because
Mm.
Shauna, the daughter, worked there, Aaron worked there, and Stefan worked there, and it was like, uh, so they wanted to know how they would split it up and make it all work. And anyway, there was a little family feud and stuff. And I was able to work with the family and walk through some of that with them. I just want to tell some funny stories about Stefan. We ended up going on a lot of golf trips together, and we hung out a lot. And we used to go to Arizona every winter. We'd fly down to Tucson and go golf during the winter. And we made this kind of an annual thing. And oh God, we'd have so much fun. I remember one time we were on the tee box and he tees off and he hits this shot and it hits this tree out in front of us and comes shooting back right at all of us. We're on the tee box. It was like a minus 50 yards, when the ball finally stopped. And then he would have this horrible just push. He would just push everything to the right. And he was hitting balls out in the neighborhood. You could hear him hitting cars and stuff.
Oh
Just
no.
bang, bang. Oh, we just had so much fun and laughed.
Sounds like my golfing. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, it was great. But Stefan, he did really good for quite a while, and then he just kind of got away from the program. He didn't go to very many meetings or any meetings, and I would see him once in a while and talk to him and stuff. He'd left the restaurant. His brother took over the restaurant. He didn't want to work for his brother, and he ended up going into, I think he worked for Nicholas, and then he worked for some other food distributor companies. And Stefan was a chef, so he fit into that industry really, really well. But I remember one day Stefan called me up, and he was really, really upset. I said, "What's going on?" And he's also diabetic, and he told me that he was losing his eyesight, and that they let him go from his job because he couldn't drive anymore.
Mhm.
And he went into this program for the state, and they took him out of the house, and he had to live in this apartment for 3 months. And they taught him how to read Braille, and they put a blindfold on him, and they'd send him out in the community to learn how to use his cane, and they'd make him go get on a bus, or they'd drive him somewhere. They'd drive him clear across town and drop him off, and then he had to figure out how to get back. That was one of his tests to get back. Anyway, it's a really difficult time, and of course, he was really down in the dumps, and him and I walked through that, and I was there with him. I went hung out with him while he was in the blind center, and when he got out of the blind center, it was so funny. I asked him to go get breakfast with me one day, and I pick him up in the car, and I take him to this restaurant, and we're walking down the sidewalk, and it was like a Sunday morning. There was people everywhere, and I'm pushing people out of the way, and I'm moving chairs, and I'm opening doors for him and everything. And he's, I'm really coddling him, and he grabs me and he says, "Brent," he said, "how am I ever going to learn how to get through life if you're doing all these things for me?" He says, if I run into a chair or something, I'll learn not to run into a chair anymore. But if you're moving everything, I'm never going to figure this out." And I go, "Oh, okay. So this is how you want to be, right?" So I went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
I started putting chairs in front of him.
Yeah.
And I am messing with him big time. Oh, it was so funny. And I don't know if you've ever messed with a blind guy, but it's really pretty entertaining.
No, I have
It
not.
sounds terrible. But, this is what he wanted. Well, this is what you're going to get.
So I get it now.
Yeah. So I am and this went on forever. I mean, one time I remember we went to a meeting, and they were resurfacing the parking lot. It was an asphalt parking lot, and they resurfaced. Well, they had all this caution tape around these areas. I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. And first off, when I take him to that meeting, I always park by a tree that had a low leaning limb, so he'd run into the limb. So, well, you're going to learn not to do that, aren't you? Anyway, but I got him in this caution. I felt bad this day. I led him right over to this caution tape, and he was just wrapped in this caution tape. I was laughing so hard. The more he tried to get out of it, the worse he got. No, man. So I was just teasing the crap out of the guy.
Yeah.
I'd never let up. But he got me back. I took him one morning. We went to Starbucks, and he used to take his cane, and when he was following me into a place, he would just tap my heel to see where I was at,
Right.
so he could follow me. So he'd just go tap, 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 tap as we're walking. Well, I'm headed into Starbucks one day. I get out of the car, and he comes up behind me like he always did, and he smacks me with the cane. I mean, pretty hard on the heel, on my heel. Smacks me, and I look at him like, "That was kind of rough, dude. What are you doing?" And take a couple more steps, and whack, he hits me again. And I was like, "What the heck?" So we get to the door of Starbucks, and this Starbucks is packed. I mean, the place is full of people. And I open up the door. He hits me hard in the heel again. And I turned around and I said, "Damn it, don't hit me with that." And he puts his hands up over his head and go, don't hit me anymore. Please don't hit me." Everybody in that Starbucks stared at me. And then he started laughing. Oh, man, I felt like I fell right into that. Had me hook, line, and sinker. But that's the kind of relationship we had. Boy, he got me good. He was good with that cane. He could smack me with that thing.
You're right where you were.
I said, "How do you know where I'm at? How you always hit me?" He goes, "Because you never shut up."
He knows right where you're at.
So he's really become a fabulous friend and a brother to me, and we've gone through really hard times together. And when he lost his eyesight, then he got back into the program, and yeah, we've been really close for all these years. His parents passed away, and I was there for that, and we just went through life together, and he helped me and I helped him, and that's what I keep preaching about this thing is it's about helping people. It's about getting out of yourself and reaching out to other people because, we're all in the same boat and that's what works. Two alcoholics talking to each other and figuring out how to go through life the best we can. So
Hmm.
Stefan's been a really, really big part of my recovery. I'm sure glad he was on my journey with me for all those years. It was an amazing, amazing time to spend with him and other people that I sponsored. I I sponsored quite a few people. Most people that you sponsor, they don't really, they'll come up to you after a meeting, hey, will you sponsor me? And it's like, well, yeah, but you got to call me, every day for the next 30 days. And they're just like, oh, what an order, I can't do that. I mean, you're asking a lot of me. And I was like, what? And I couldn't get them to call me, it was like, you just got to call and check in. You don't have to say anything, but hey, I'm just calling to check in. And okay, great. Are you doing okay today? Yeah, okay. See you later. Bye. And hang up. I mean,
Hmm.
15, 20 seconds.
Hmm.
So, but some people just wouldn't do that, or they wouldn't call you. So
Hmm.
I finally got to the place where I'd only sponsor people that were willing to do the job, willing to do the work.
Hmm.
And I worked with a lot of people that really did want this thing and worked hard and uh, stayed sober and became really, really good friends. And that's how you build this community around you is you just you start helping other people and they help you and pretty soon you guys we're going out to dinners with husbands and wives and we're going camping and we're traveling together and I've got some crazy stories about some of the people that we got sober with because Elaine she was really involved in Al-Anon. So she was hanging out with all the wives, and I was hanging out with all the husbands, and
Hmm.
and we're doing all this stuff together, and we'd get together as groups, and we'd have parties during the holidays. We were always having people over. Like I remember back when the Jazz were playing, and we'd 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 set up TVs all over my house and invite people over. There's a game almost every night. So
Hmm.
during the playoffs, it was just like there was people all over my house and everybody would bring a potluck and we just all get together and watch the games. And I was real vocal and I I didn't even sit down. I just stood in front of the TV and was yelling at the TV. I remember in my neighborhood that all the kids in the neighborhood, I was living in Centerville at the time. I had a big front porch that went the whole length of the front of the house. And then I had two bay windows, and one of the bay windows is where the TV was. And all the kids in the neighborhood would come and watch me watch the game because they were these good Mormon little kids, and I would cuss, and they would laugh. Oh, they thought that was the funniest thing. I'm cussing at the TV. We had parties continuously, every night, and so we really built a community. And there for a while in the summers, we'd have meetings over at my house, just to uh, really just 10 o'clock at night. Bunch, never knew who was going to show up, and we'd go out on my deck, and it was warm in the summer, and it was just barely getting dark, and we'd sit out on the deck and have candles and stuff out there, and we'd have meetings and talk about our day and all of that.
Nice.
So it
How
was
does that go? What's a meeting look like for maybe someone who hasn't gone to one yet?
well, it's a thing that you get all it takes is two people to have a meeting, right?
Yeah.
Normally in a meeting, you're going to read a reading out of the big book.
Okay.
Usually we'll read a portion of chapter 5 out of the big book, how it works. It's on page 58 of the big book. And we'll read that and then you can read the traditions. You can do just pretty much anything you want. And then you just kind of talk about what's going on with you. And then you just go around the room and everybody has an opportunity to share. and you're not supposed to crosstalk. You just listen, to whatever anybody else is saying.
Okay.
When you get done talking, then you just get quiet and you listen to the next person, and everybody gets an opportunity to kind of talk about what's going on in their life or what they're struggling with or successes. I think it's really important when you go spend time with people in a meeting or just one on one, that it's vitally important that we talk about what really works. Yeah, I had this challenge today, but this is what I did to get out of it. So there's always a solution. I think a lot of people get focused on the problem and they don't look at the solution. And I think it's vitally important that no matter what happens during your day or what's going on in your life, whether it's something minor or something really, really big, you talk about, okay, this is what happened, but this is exactly what I did to get through it, to work through it. And so, yeah, I always try to share something positive and not dwell on the negative. I heard somewhere along the way, I heard somebody say if there was two dogs and one was a mean dog and one was a nice dog, it's the one you feed is the one that you're gonna, I don't know how that saying goes exactly, but you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
you want to feed that mean dog, it's just going to get ugly and bad. So, I tried to always feed that part of recovery where there is a solution. It's easy to get stuck in, and I just don't think that victims get well. If you're a victim all the time and you stay in that victim mode day in and day out, you're not going to get well until you take responsibility for where you're at, and then tell me how you're going to get out of it. What are you going to do to work through this? And it's as simple as saying, and I prayed today and I asked for help or guidance, or I called my sponsor, or I applied this step to the problem. I looked at it through the eyes of, step 10 or step 11 or whatever. And or you read something out of the big book, or you read something out of some inspirational book that was able to give you some hope, and how to get through it. I think that's a lot of people in addiction. They don't, they want sympathy. Boris used to always tell me the worst thing you can give an alcoholic is sympathy. And I think he's right. He never gave me 1 ounce of sympathy. He just constantly threw it right back in my face.
Mhm.
And so, we, in meetings, you talk about the solution, and they normally last about an hour. And we've had meetings all over anytime I travel with friends or go camping and stuff, every night, around the campfire, we'd have a meeting, and they were so powerful. You're in the mountains and all the stars, and you got this big campfire burning, and just the spirit of that moment in time has just been incredible. You feel something there that you can't really explain. And I remember I used to, always drink when I was in the mountains, and what a waste. What a waste I don't know. There's something about the mountains for me. I get a lot of, I just feel like that's where my higher power lives, and I feel close to nature and God, and just feel like I belong and fit in the world when I get up there. And, I think that's all I ever looked for in recovery. So I guess what I'm talking about tonight is, you build a community around you, and I can't even explain to you the depth, when you work the steps with somebody, the depth of your relationship with those individuals. I mean, they're like brothers. I mean, you're really, really super close to them. And you get to know them probably better than their family knows them. They open up to you, they share with their experiences with you, their fears, and some of the things that they've gone through, and you become really, really, really close. And I think that's the key to this thing. Recovery is, you've got to build a community around you. I've often said that I believe that the disease of alcoholism, it wants us alone. It just wants us alone. If it can get us by ourselves, and everybody that I talk to that walks through the doors of a treatment center or whatever, they all say the same thing. They didn't go out and party every night. They didn't go to the bar every night. They end up, usually in the basement of their house, drinking alone and just, push everybody out of your life. You push your family out of your life, everybody that loves and cares about you, you push away. And then once that disease has got you by yourself, it's got you. I mean, it has you right where it wants you. And as soon as you reach out and ask for help, or you bring somebody into the situation and start talking to them and get totally honest, you break that cycle. And then there's hope, you know. But for most alcoholics, that's a very, very difficult thing to do, is ask for help. It's not a natural thing to do. You want to do it, you got yourself into this, you want to get yourself out. You don't want to burden anybody else, or you don't, I don't know what it is, but you get really, really super stubborn and you don't want to ask for help. And that's when people die. A lot of us commit suicide. I remember Horace, when I first got into the program, he says, well, one thing I need to tell you is you better go buy a suit. And I'm like, a suit? What are you talking about? He goes, you're going to go to a lot of funerals. And I'm like, what? And he was absolutely right. And I've buried a lot of friends, a lot of friends. People that you just can't even. I had a little gal call me up one night, gal that we hung out with, and she went to, she'd go to coffee with us after the meetings and go to dinner and hang out. Young gal, real petite, real small gal, just a ton of fun, a lot of energy. And she called me up one night and she says, Brent, I just wanted to tell you that I love you. And she hung up. And about 2 minutes later, she shot herself in the head. And you just don't, there's no rhyme or reason for that. There's no, I tell you, the thing that touches me about those stories, and I've got lots of stories like that. I don't think people understand the value of this thing called life. We've been given a fabulous gift, an unbelievable gift to be on this planet, to take responsibility for your life, to enjoy it, to help other people, to have children and grandchildren, and me, great grandchildren, and and all the people that I've met and loved, and all the things that I do and enjoy. It's such a valuable thing. And for people just to get down so deep and feel so miserable, it just breaks my heart. Everybody's so valuable. I don't care what you're going through. There's always a solution, and that's not a good solution. It's selfish. You hurt a lot of people. And I'm one of those folks that will, if you're in a situation like that, I will spend a ton of time with you. We can walk through this together, no matter what it is, or no matter what your pain is. I will be there. And it's not like I do that for people I know. I do that for anybody. If they want to get well, I'm willing to help them. I know there's only, my brother committed suicide, and I've gone down that road many, many, many times with people. But there's a point where some people, you just got to let them go. You got to give them the dignity to do whatever they need to do. And sometimes it's scary to say, I'm here to help you, but if you don't want help, then you need to do what you need to do. And that's a scary situation. I'm not going to enable anybody If that's what they want to do, if they want to kill themselves, then I don't want to sound harsh here, but I just have to give them everybody's got free will. I can't make you feel better. I'll walk through it with you. I'll hold your hand. I'll face any problems you've got together.
Mhm.
But if you push me away and you tell me this is what you want to do, first off, I will call the police.
Mhm.
I will do what I can, but
Mhm.
there's a line there where just not just suicide, but addiction in general. I
Mhm.
can't make anybody get sober or want to be sober. I
Mhm.
have to give them the dignity to make that decision on their own.
Mhm.
Horace was brutal with me. If I didn't want to work a step or I pushed back at all with him on anything he said, it's like, well, it sounds to me like you want to drink. It's like, whoa, dude.
Wow.
I just said that I didn't want to do the step today, or I didn't want to do this today, or I didn't feel like going to a meeting. Wow, it sounds to me like you want to drink. Why don't you go drink? It's like, wow,
Dude,
brutal.
that's so rough. It's so rough. And I think not everyone could handle that kind of Horace, sponsor. And so there's a good fit. It's kind of like what you've been talking about here is that during these meetings or after the meetings, I suppose, that you met your first, the person that you sponsored. And so because there was such a connection, I guess that maybe that connection was kind of a spiritual connection almost, you
Oh,
just kind of
definitely.
meant to be together because you
Yeah.
had such similar backgrounds and whatnot. So, yeah.
The one thing that I've noticed throughout the years, when somebody comes up to me and they ask me to sponsor them,
Yeah.
I immediately know we have a lot in common because you're absolutely right. It is a spiritual thing.
Mm.
So when they come to me, it's like you realize that you're just a tool, that this was meant to be.
Mm.
And when they start sharing their story with you, you just kind of get a grin on your face because you realize they didn't go talk to Joe Blow over on the other side of the room for a reason. They didn't talk
Mm.
to this guy or that guy for a reason. They came to you because you guys ended up having a lot in common.
Mhm.
So, because of the commonalities between the two of us, it makes it a lot easier for me to help them and walk them through the process.
Mhm.
So, I don't think it's ever a coincidence. I think it's an honor when somebody walks up to me, and that's what I tell them. They asked me to sponsor, and I said, it would be an honor to sponsor you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
It's an honor to get the opportunity to show somebody how to walk down this path because it's a path that takes some courage and some strength. But more than that, it just takes some faith and some hope. And I think my job is to let them know that no matter what they're going through, most likely I've been through it, I've done it myself. And if I can do it, you can do it,
Mhm.
kind of attitude. Like,
Mhm.
and I think it's amazing how much alcoholics care about each other.
Yeah.
There's a movie out there. I think it's called Bill Wilson, or
I,
maybe it's
yeah.
yeah. I think it's Bill Wilson,
No, yeah.
and it's a story about Bill's life when he started Alcoholics Anonymous, and him and Bob got together and started the program. And I always loved the end of the movie. Uh, Bill and Bob are walking down in the middle of some city, Philadelphia or Akron, or wherever they were, down in the down in the where all the homeless people were hanging out and everything. And they looked down this alley, and there was this guy put his hand out and was helping this other drunk off the ground. He was helping him. And Bob looked at Bill and he says, "See, even when we're drinking, alcoholics they help each other. They've always wanted to help each other."
Wow.
So I think it's a powerful statement. I think there's something there about you really get a lot of satisfaction out of giving away what was freely given to me. I mean, I think back when I started out, how many people put up with me. You know, I, I remember I just gotten out of treatment. I can tell this story. It's funny as heck, but yeah, just got out of treatment. And, me and my buddy, we went to this meeting out in Salt Lake. It was a noon meeting, and it was on a Thursday. And we go to this meeting, and this kid gets up, and he's got like 90 days, which to me was a long time. I had like 40 days. This kid gets up, he's got 90 days. He just got out of jail. Barely got out of jail, came to a meeting. He gets up to the podium and he's speaking, he's talking. And he was honest and real. I really liked what he had to say. I mean, he really, we wanted help. He wasn't BSing anybody. He was just talking from the heart. And he sat down, and this old guy gets up after him, and he had like 11 years of sobriety. And he just tore into this kid. Oh, you're up here telling us how to do it? You got 90 days and you haven't even been to any meet. And this guy's just ripping him a new one. I mean, you got nothing to offer us. You have nothing. You can't give away. In the big book, it says you can't give away anything you don't have. You can't transmit something you don't have. And so he's quoting this out of the book to this kid, and he's just tearing him up. Oh my gosh. I was so angry.
Yeah.
I was so angry. That night, I went to this meeting in Bountiful, this AA meeting. It was like the first time I'd been there. And it was a big meeting. It was on a Thursday night at the church. And I walk in, and I'm just stewing over this thing. And I got less time than this kid had. And they start the meeting and ask anybody if they want to share. And I jump up. I want to share.
Oh boy.
And I stood up. Nobody ever stood up. Everybody sat down and talked. But no, I jump up. And I said, and I told him the story. And I went to this meeting today, and this guy chewed this kid out because he didn't have anything to say. He wasn't worth nothing, and blah, blah, blah. And I says, I'll tell you what. My name's Brent, and I'm an alcoholic. And if you don't like it, you can kiss my butt. I ripped into everybody in that meeting. I says, and if people don't like it, if I want to share, I'm going to share it. If you don't like it, we can go outside right now. Let's go. And they're all looking at me with these wide eyes, and I get done sharing and sit down, and everybody claps and says, keep coming back, Brent. And I'm like, whoa. They took it really, really well. And most people didn't even acknowledge that I said anything, no crosstalk or anything. And it was like,
okay, next.
about in the middle of the meeting, this little guy gets up. I'll never forget it. His name was Bill M. And he was a meat salesman, and he had 16 years of sobriety. And he was about 5'2", whether he was standing up or laying down. I mean, he was just round, this guy. And he came up to me and he handed me his card. First, he gave me a cup of coffee, and then he handed me his card, and it had his name on it and his address and his phone number. And he goes, if there's anything I can do to help you, he says, you call me anytime. And I looked at him and I looked at that card and I thought, dude, if you knew who I was, you would not be giving me your address and your name. And I thought, this guy is crazy. This guy doesn't have a clue who I am. The story goes, this guy knew exactly who I was. He was an amazing man and a huge part of my recovery for years and years and years.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, I don't know, I think he picked up a 17-year chip, or maybe, I think it was an 18. I think it was an 18-year chip he picked up at a meeting one time, and I was in the meeting, and he shuffled over to me, and he handed me his chip. He says, look at that chip. I look at it, and he says, someday you're going to have that chip. And I'm like, you might as well told me I'm going to end up on the moon. I had maybe 2 years or something. He's got 18 years, and he tells me that someday I'll own an 18-year chip.
Wow.
And I just about died when he told me that. I'll never forget that. He looked at me in the eye and just said, someday. And when I picked up my 18-year chip, guess who I thought of?
Yeah,
I thought old Bill. Yeah, man, that was amazing.
that's cool.
He was the funniest guy. Here I was selling drugs and doing all this stuff when I was out there running and gunning. And well, his story is he was selling moonshine. He was doing the same thing I was doing. Here I thought this guy didn't know me at all. He knew exactly who I was. He did
Another
everything that I did. He was a
another
meat
similar.
salesman. He was actually a salesman too.
Yeah, exactly. He recognized you right away.
Oh yeah, he knew
Wow,
exactly what it was. But that was
that's so
funny. I
cool.
got so upset at him at the meeting. I'm yelling and screaming at him, and they're just looking at me like, "Dude, just keep coming back.
Wow, this
It's
guy,
okay. It's all
that's
right."
awesome. Yeah, I believe, I don't know strongly, like I've not been through a lot of any of this really, but I've mentored a lot of people in my industry, some fresh out of college or boot camp or whatever. And I think one of the things that they really need is just someone that believes in them.
Yeah.
It's like, and it sounds like Bill maybe was that kind of guy for you at that moment, is like, hey man, you're going to get to 18 years. And for you, it was like impossible. Like, I don't know how that is ever going to happen or whatever, but I think we all need someone in our corner that's ready to go to bat with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, most people in recovery, they figure that out really early. When one alcoholic talks to another, man, you can really feel the depth of their willingness and find their hope, and they'll be there for you. They'll have your back. I mean, I've got a list of people I could call in the middle of the night anytime and ask people to be there for me, and they'd be there in a heartbeat. And
Yeah.
and I'd do the same for them. And you just build this the community around you that is, you know, we often talk about all the friends that we used to have when we were out there drinking.
Mhm.
None of those guys, I mean, oh yeah, they're your buddy, yeah, they'll do whatever. I'll do whatever I can for you, blah, blah, blah. But when push comes to shove, there's not one of them that called me up when I got sober and said, "Hey, we miss you at the bar. Where you been?" It's like nobody ever said that. Nobody missed me when from the old days.
Mhm.
They were happy that I was gone. I mean, they were happy I got sober.
Right.
They were like, "You were a menace to society."
So
Thank
glad
the
you're not
good
around
Lord.
anymore. Yeah.
Thank the good Lord that you got sober, because man, you were running and gunning.
Isn't that interesting? There seems to be a lot of uh dichotomies like that are just swapped, right?
Yeah,
Like going to an organization, be a part of a program that doesn't teach you how not to drink. It teaches you how to think, how to react, and how to be vulnerable and honest with yourself and take responsibility. All those steps, right?
yeah,
And but you hang with a bunch of buddies of that we've all had that are just faded away into time. Like, where are they?
right,
And these
right.
strangers are there cheering you on, basically, because they recognize themselves in you.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it
that's
was just like the other night when you and I were talking when I was at your place. I told you the story about that big biker guy that when I
Mhm.
was going through my divorce, he was a truck driver and he drove all night long, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. It was
Mhm.
just, man, my brain was just torturing me. I couldn't think of anything but that woman all the time. What she's doing, who she's with, what's going on. I mean, I couldn't eat, I couldn't think. Just that emotional pain was unbelievable. But that guy would talk to me for hours while he's driving out in the middle of nowhere, and we talked for months. And I knew he was there every night. If I couldn't sleep, I would just pick up the phone and call him, and he would just walk me through this. And
Mhm.
he was he was kind of a religious guy, and he talked about the Bible a lot. I guess I needed to hear that. I don't know, but
Imagine that.
But he was there. And then,
Mhm.
when I walked through all that and got to the other side of my divorce, I never saw the guy again. I saw him one or two times. It was just so amazing how he was put in my life when I needed him. And I have a lot of things that happened to me along the way that were very similar to that. People would just pop up into my life when I needed them. They were there. And then when I got through that problem, they would just go away. They would just disappear. And I look back on it now and it's just like, wow, that was really, really strange. I,
It sounds like a miracle to me.
yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
it
God's working in your life right there.
was. I mean, I remember when Elaine and I first got separated, uh, we we were separated for quite a while, and then I decided that maybe I wanted to make it work. But I went and talked to her, and she just like, "No, dude, I'm done. I've got a boyfriend. you know, and you're not coming back in my life." And I was just devastated again. And I remember I just went to the airport and I got on a plane and I went to Las Vegas, and I'm sober. And I get on this plane and I fly to I don't ever remember being on the plane. I was so mentally screwed up, I guess. And I get to the plane and I'm sitting in the airport in Las Vegas and I picked up the phone and I called this guy and I was talking to him and he had just gone through a divorce. He was like 2 months ahead of me. And I sat in the airport and talked to him for like an hour and a half.
Mm.
And we ended up, communicating a lot through that period of time once again. And then he just disappeared,
Mm.
after things got a little better for me and stuff. And we didn't see each other very often. And I mean, we're still friends to this day, but there's just people like that would just come in my life. You
Mm.
do not want to go to Las Vegas when you're really upset. I remember I took a bunch of money out of the bank and I
Mm.
went, and I'm not much of a gambler. I went and played slot machines. I put $800 in the machine and I didn't win one thing. I lost all of it.
Whoa.
Back then, that was a lot of money to me, and it cured me of gambling a lot.
You're like, okay, this is not working.
I don't do this
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Stop that.
So I don't recommend that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
when you're angry, that's not a good time to gamble.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, it's like these gaps, right? These moments, and you've talked to me about exercising what I say, exercising your faith in God, and asking for help along the way, and yeah, he didn't forget about you, during those moments, And
Yeah.
it
Yeah, for
was
sure.
that's just amazing. That's definitely a miracle in my book. So that's cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where things popped up that were just remarkable. Uh, I think we got, I don't, I got a story I think is probably going to take longer than what we have time to do today, but
All right.
I'll get into that story. It was a real awakening for me, and when I moved to Hawaii, you'll have to remind me to talk about the Hawaii adventure and what happened there because it was one of those moments in time where I realized my higher power was right there with me all the time and I felt abandoned at the time. I didn't feel that spirit. I felt nothing. And then I realized after this experience that I'll share with you, what had happened and it really woke me up to, the love and care that I feel like when you give up and you ask for help, that it's so available to each and every one of us. It's not just available to the spiritual, gurus that go to church every Sunday,
That's right.
but anybody that sticks their hand out, seriously. I mean,
Sure.
I've heard that 1,000 times and I think it's kind of corny. Yeah,
Yeah.
you stick your hand out to God and, God's going to be there. But, I think you stick your hand out to God and God comes running. I really do. I feel it. And I hope that doesn't sound corny, but that's my experience is just I opened up my heart and my soul to that power, and I've seen that power happen to me over and over and over again. And the beautiful thing is I know if it can happen for me, it can happen for anybody. I think the only thing that kept me from tapping into that power was was me. I denied it. I pushed it away. I didn't want anything to do with that kind of stuff. And when I finally accepted that things were going on in my life after working the steps and helping other people and working through these, situations, that my higher power was always there and always is. And that's a big comfort. It's funny. I look back over the years, and it's funny how not consciously but subconsciously I'm always wheeling and dealing with God.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, I remember one time it was like step 3, right? I'm going to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand God. But when I'm in a relationship, it's like, God, I got the relationship part. You take care of my money and my job and things like that, but I'll take care of the relationship. And I didn't say that out loud, but when I look back at it, I realized that there was areas in my life that I just thought, I know better. I can do this. I don't need your help.
Well, that resonates with me so much. I can't even tell you. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We must have shared DNA or something.
Yeah, we might have. We might have.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, it's funny how we do that. Yeah, I'll negotiate what parts of my life that I want you involved in and what parts I don't.
Yeah. I got this part, but if you can really handle this other thing that
Yeah,
I want to do, that'd be awesome.
yeah, but I got this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It just brings to mind that was a great teaser for our next episode. But before we cut out, I want to just say that, that really resonates with me about reaching out to God, and having him show up in big ways. I was in the hospital for COVID, for 18 days, and that was nuts. Like, I really thought I was going to die the first like 8, 9 days, and had a buddy that showed up for me and said, "Hey, this is what you need to do," and he just gave me this program to start doing these things. And he's like, "You got to do it 3 times, and then once you do it once, then you got to do it 3 times during the whole day." And I was like, "Okay, that's just what I'm going to do then." And it was a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, a lot of thinking, and I started to see it in my life. I started to see God show up in that little hospital room.
Yeah.
And the anger started to leave me, because the nurse would come in, and I'd get mad and do this or do that or whatever, and I started being more kind. And
Yeah.
and God really showed up for me. And what I realized out of all that is that the love, like you said, it's always there available for us. I was the one that was blocking that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I was the one blocking to my own detriment. Now, God could have taken me back to him in a matter of seconds, right? But he gave me a chance to feel all that. And I really believe that we have to let love in. We have to allow that to come into our hearts and minds so that he can heal us, so he can work his miracles with us.
Right.
Too often we're like playing defense,
Well,
not even knowing it.
it's very, very common for alcoholics and drug addicts to not want God in their life whatsoever. I think it's a real big percentage of people in recovery that have real bad God issues.
Mm.
And I'm here to tell you that I was the same, and it's okay.
Mhm.
We talk about it like, because it's worked for us. We have a lot of faith, and it's kind of easy. But in the beginning, for me, it was a very, very, very difficult thing to even say the word God. I mean, but in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's the God of your understanding. It doesn't have to be Jonathan's God, or it doesn't have to be Brent's God. It can be anything that you want to call it, or whatever you want to use as a power greater than yourself. And so, I think that that's super important, that people out there that are fighting against this, you just realize that the book says quit fighting everybody and everything. And I would just encourage people to if you got nothing to lose, if it doesn't work, do it for 30 days, 90 days, pray, whatever. And if it doesn't work, we'll refund your misery is what we say. So, you know, but seriously, if you just open your mind, give it a shot. That's what I did. The first prayer I ever said was help. And, it worked. And now I can't imagine living a day without that prayer. I just can't. I tap into it. So something's changed in me, but I understand people that don't want that as well.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it totally is. I agree 100%.
Yep.
Well, I think that's a good point. You teased us a little bit with an experience in Hawaii. I'll remind you next time, and then we'll get into that. And thanks again for watching and listening. We're excited to have you along, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Push Each Other to the Top. Brent's story is a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there's still a path forward and someone willing to walk it with us. If this episode meant something to you, share it. And if you're struggling right now, please know you're not alone. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss the next story. And if you can, leave a quick review. It helps more people find these conversations. New episodes drop soon. We hope you'll come back. Continue listening for behind the scenes moment after we ended the episode.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been struggling with my driver lately. I don't know. I went up to Salt Lake or went up to St. George and I golfed at that Black Desert, which is a $400 golf course, and went to another course the next day, which is just about the same. They're two PGA golf courses. Oh, wow. Super, super expensive, really hard, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't get off the tee box. My irons, I was hitting my irons great. All my approach shots to the green. I mean, my scores weren't that bad, but I'm literally, right off the bat, I'm hitting the ball like 20 yards.
Oh, goodness.
Just hitting the top of the ball and it's just squirting out in front of me. And I cannot do it. I kept doing it. And then I come back and went and golfed with a buddy and I started doing it again. And I don't feel anything I'm doing different, but something's bad. And I do it over and over and over again. And it makes me so angry. So the other night I went out and just by myself here at the local golf course and there's nobody around. I went back out to the back nine and took off. And I thought to myself, well, why don't we try this? So I went and tried a couple of different things and one of them worked perfect. It was like, it was the answer to what I've been doing wrong. And I've been getting in this mode. It's been going on now for a couple of years. I just get to this place where I just do this worm burner right off the tee box and I cannot not do it. And I've tried doing all these different things, but the other night I went out and I thought, well, I'm going to try this. And I tried it and I just crushed the ball right down the middle. And I just started having more and more success with it. And it was just all about rotating my hands. And I was just hitting the ball so good. And I think I finally, after a couple of years, been struggling with this. I think I finally, keep my fingers crossed, have it figured out. Now, I'm not hitting great shots off, but the funny part is, now I start hitting off the tee box, and I can't hit my irons now.
Oh, no, it's swapped. Forget Juju went from one to the other.
Yeah, geez, that's golf. That's just golf. It's a hard game, man.